like to welcome everybody to January 5th Wilton Town Board meeting. Everybody rise.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I wish everybody would stand for a moment of silence for Robert Barrett, who was a longtime member of our zoning board, a town resident, who did a great job at the town. Thank you all. Roll call.
Supervisor Lant?
Here.
Deputy Supervisor McEachran?
Here.
Councilman Bogardus?
Here.
Councilwoman Culligan? I'm not sure, she may be late. And Councilman O'Connor?
Here.
Thank you. Has everybody had a chance to read our 2023 resolutions?
Yes.
You want a separate vote on any one of them?
The only thing I want to note is there are, I think, maybe two resolutions related to the selection of financial institutions as depositories, so I'll abstain on that item.
Okay.
I will as well. I have
Thank you.
You want to make a motion to accept them?
I'll make a motion to accept them, other than those that Councilwoman Culligan and I abstained on.
26 and 42.
26 and 42?
Yes.
I'll second that.
All in favor? Any opposed? Carried. Public comment. Last month, I went a little long. I let everybody speak about that solar, so we could all understand each other. And let the residents know the town board is here to protect the town. That's our goal. So tonight we're going back to the 3-minute rule. So when the buzzard goes off, please sit back down. Anybody want to speak?
We have Joanne Klepetar.
Joanne?
First, I'd like to thank our town clerk, Ms. Baldwin, for getting the minutes up so quickly. It was great to see them and able to read them, way before this meeting. Also, the video appeared, and that's wonderful. More transparency for the town. Thank you. The proposal for a change in the solar code has given me cause to explore the open space. Can you hear me? Yeah. Open space and pathways plan for Wilton once again, and question where we stand with the plan. With carefully chosen words and phrases, with help from the LA Group and MJ Engineering, like continue to identify timely consideration, develop a strategy, encourage existing, invest in, establish and adopt. When can the residents of Wilton expect that they might see the plan taken off the shelf and move to the forefront of the town's agenda? There is some great stuff written in the plan, but unless there are people willing to do the work as Larry Gordon so tirelessly did, it will never happen. What better time than when there is such a large town surplus, put items in the open space and pathways plan. Get done. Be accomplished. Brian does a great job connecting the neighborhoods and holding developers to the necessary guidelines, but he's only one person. Wilton needs to make a monetary investment and hire someone whose primary goal is to implement this plan. Wilton also needs to think outside its box and allow the residents to get involved in taking on, under the town's guidance, some of this responsibility to tackle implementation of the plan. There are certainly enough residents who value our open space, and many anxiously look forward to being able to safely navigate our town with something other than a motorized vehicle. It's long overdue. Thank you.
Thank you.
We have Jessica Dolan.
Hi, good evening. Can you hear me okay? Just speaking on behalf of Jess Dolan, Monica Howe, and Stacy Gammon, we are part of a larger group of people that are interested in expanding the open space and looking into the idea of adding trails and pathways to our town. So with that, it's obvious that suburban residents would like walkable and bikeable connected communities. Proof of this is that other nearby towns have added paved pedestrian paths to enhance the quality of life for their residents. Clifton Park, Bethlehem, Guilderland, and now Saratoga Springs. It is surprising that Wilton does not already have these community connections, since it's evident that it is prioritized by other local suburban communities. We would like our town to be in sync with what the residents want. One of the great things about Wilton is Gavin Park and all it has to offer. Despite this being such an asset to our community, Gavin Park is only accessible by car. Even though we live less than a mile from the park, walking or biking there is not possible because of the danger of traveling on Jones Road. It is such a shame that a wonderful feature of the community and a gathering place can only be reached by car. This is so limiting to many of us who like to walk, jog, bike, or take strollers to the park. Along with this, there are many neighborhoods in Wilton that seem isolated and are not connected. Having a path would give the neighborhoods a safe connection route. Children from these neighborhoods could easily play together, and neighbors could walk between neighborhoods. In addition, property values have been shown to increase in proximity to trails, as communities recognize them as a safe place to be active, healthy, and community-oriented. We represent a much larger group of Wilton families that support the creation of multi-use trails in Wilton. We have spoken to neighbors, community members, and friends, done research, created a proposal and website, and even have begun to collect signatures. We realize that this idea has been looked at in the past and has not gotten much traction. We're hoping it's time, or that you feel like it would be time for Wilton to recognize that the residents do want a walkable, bikeable, connected community. We need paved pedestrian paths in Wilton to enhance the lives of residents, promote health and well-being, and create a better sense of community. Knowing that there's such a large surplus in the town budget, we're hoping that you would agree it's a great time to consider this. We would like guidance on what would be the next step in this process. We would love to work with you and share our ideas, and look forward to hearing your thoughts. And thank you for listening.
Thank you. Did everybody get a chance to read last month's minutes?
Yes. Oh, we got, I guess, one more person.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Oh, I'm sorry.
She got it.
Tony, sure.
Sorry.
Hi, Tony Sturm at 41 Parkhurst. I'd like to comment some more and bring up, sort of revisit some of the issues discussed with the proposed code amendments to commercial scale solar installations. It seems that the largest objections that people at the town board have voiced, most recently Chairperson or Council Member O'Connor in his letter to the editor, is the issue of clear cutting of forest land. Another primary issue seems to be the aesthetics of large-scale solars. And I would propose that the town really look at zoning changes and code amendments that actually address these issues and that differentiate between installations that will require clear cutting versus installations that are using already open space. It doesn't make sense to apply a nearly prohibitive fee of $10,000 an acre to use of an open field versus where you have to clear cut 30 or 40 acres. And likewise, one of the responses to our comments at the last meeting was, well, what about zoning codes? Well, the zoning codes already have setbacks in place. Some of the setbacks, I live in an R2, some of the setbacks for like, and I might be off by a little bit, but the side setbacks, it's like 40 feet. That's not adequate to provide visual blockages for, let's say, if you're going to do a large solar install, you really need a lot more to allow trees to grow or to keep trees in place to shield the public or the road or nearby houses from a 40-acre field. So I think the current zoning in place isn't really adequate to address these kinds of issues, if those are the issues that the board really feels are the primary objections. And I think the third point that I'd like to revisit is that whatever fee schedule or program is set up, I think that we need to look as a community and to get community input into what do we want these monies to be used for. Our town is sitting on an $11 million budget surplus right now. And we have this amazing open space recreation and parks plan that I think some of the earlier speakers alluded to, has all these connectivity of non-motorized transportation, and it's existed for a long time, and we just revisited it last year, and it was updated wonderfully, but it's really time, I think, for us to move forward and start to think about implementing some of those things, and I would hope that whatever monies for solar could be applied to that. Thank you.
Anybody else wish to speak? Has everybody read last month's minutes?
I did. I'd like to make a motion that we approve December of 2022's minutes.
Second. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Carried. Margot?
Julie, the lights.
After doing these reports for 10 plus years, they suggested that I could do a little multimedia, or at least media, for my report this time. So I took them up on the suggestion, and I do have, I think you received the printout, which is the fourth quarter report, which talks about all the wonderful things that have happened at Wilton Wildlife Preserve and Park this year, the programs that we've had, the success that we've had this year in receiving a lot of grants, the support of grants through the town of Wilton, through Saratoga County, through New York State, through some other organizations. So we feel like we've had a really good year. So I didn't want to spend a lot of time on that fourth quarter report, but instead focus a little bit on what we're going to be working on in this year. I know at the last town board meeting, I wasn't able to be here in December, but you all voted on sort of the agreement, what was the resolution that will be allowing us as Wilton Wildlife Preserve and Park to move ahead to do some of these renovations that we've been talking about for many years now at Camp Saratoga. So I thought I would just kind of run through that a little bit. And so this map here is one you may be familiar with. It was done by the LA group. I just zoomed in on the buildings part. Am I in your way there, John? That was done by the LA group. So it's a much bigger map, but I really focused in on the infrastructure, which is the area that we're looking at for this project. So I just want to start also, you may be aware that the CFA grants, when they were announced the state grants, we did not get the grant that we were hoping for that would have given us some funds to work on this. We have raised some money, and we were really hoping to match that with the state funds. It was the third time we put in. The first time Ryan put in that grant with the town, with MJ Engineering. Then the next year we put it in at Wilton Wildlife Preserve and Park, and this year we put it in again. So It could be we submit it again, we may not, we'll see. But anyway, we have here, we're really focusing on the existing structures. So again, this was the grant we put in, reusing these existing structures. We have this wonderful infrastructure that's there at Camp Saratoga from the former Boy Scout camp. So we have here in parking lot number 1, there's the health lodge that was used as a health lodge that we've been using for renting out cross-country skis and snowshoes in the winter. In this area here, there's the new restrooms that were installed by the town a few years ago. The IP Winter Lodge, IP standing for International Paper. When it was scouting, I guess they supplied the funds that built that. So the Winter Lodge is here, and then over here we have the Ranger Cabin, which is sitting vacant right now. So that's the focus of what we're looking at for this first start of the project. So this idea of the Regional Environmental Education Center has been in the plans of Wilton Wildlife Preserve and Park in our strategic planning for many, many years. And one of the things that was the catalyst for kind of moving things ahead, it's nice that Joanne mentioned Larry Gordon. He was the catalyst of many things in the town. And it was with his passing that there was a conversation between the town, between his widow Trish, and Wilton Wildlife Preserve and Park of how to take his amazing history collection, all of the stuff that he has related to the history of the town of Wilton, of Boy Scouting, of Camp Saratoga, and find a way at Camp Saratoga to put that in a place where it could be accessible to the public. So we kind of put those ideas together. And so the idea is that we would have this regional gem located right here in the town of Wilton, easily accessible off the Northway, using the existing buildings to create a place where people can come together, they can learn about the outdoors, they can get outdoors, it's for recreation, it's for education, it's for all of this, these purposes. And again, reusing the existing structures that are there, so it's environmentally friendly, it's a more cost-effective way by using the existing structures to help people have that enhanced experience. So I don't know if everyone is familiar with all of the buildings, so that's, I think, one of the reasons why we thought a little bit visuals here would help. So when you first come into parking lot number 1, you see the health center, the health lodge building. And so that puts it in an ideal place for when people come in to be kind of oriented and to stop in to pick up maps, to get information. But right now, the building has these steps. It's a very narrow door. It's not handicap accessible. When you come inside, it's got a lot of small rooms, just single pane windows that are very leaky. The whole thing is kind of very porous to the outdoors. So it doesn't really lend itself the way it is right now to being a public kind of building. So what we are proposing, that we have proposed, again, in working with the town in the steering committee over the last year, so members of Wilton Wildlife Preserve and Park, members of the scouting group with Trish, Larry Gordon's widow, members of the town of Wilton have all come together and come up with this plan. We would remove interior walls, install better doors, windows, insulation, all the rest of it, make the building accessible with a ramp, and then when people come in, there would be an information desk, there would be some orienting exhibits, information on plants, animals, the human history, scouting, and then in the winter we would be able to put in modular movable ski racks and snowshoe racks, so when we rent them out, but then in the summer months we could roll those away, put them in storage, and they wouldn't be in the way. So these are images from other kinds of facilities, just to give you an idea of what could be done if we were to renovate the space that way. So the next building, as I mentioned, is the Winter Lodge. Excuse me. And the Winter Lodge is basically just a big room, a big space. It has concrete floors. There's a wood stove. That's the only heat in the space. Again, it has a lot of broken, leaky windows. So it doesn't really right now lend itself. It is used. You can see there's folding tables. There's some old stacking chairs that are in there. So the Saratoga Striders use it for things. The Lower Adirondack Search and Rescue have meetings. We use it for things. Boy Scouts can use it. But right now, it's not really a very usable space. It is, again, not accessible because of the way the entryways and the doors are. So again, that steering committee that's worked over the last couple of years came up with the idea we can, again, refurbish it, windows, doors, insulation, fixing it all up, heated for year-round use, again, flexible kinds of seating so that you would have a multi-purpose space that could be used for meetings, can be used when we have school groups, classrooms, presentations, all kinds of things, so that we would be able to, use that space, again, in a better way to enhance all the kinds of programs. And again, the same groups, the Striders, Lazar, the Boy Scouts would again be able to use that space along with Wilton Wildlife Preserve and Park. So the last building that we saw in that first map is the Ranger Cabin. And so for those of you who are familiar, that was where the person from Scouting who oversaw the facility lived, and then later the town's caretaker lived in the building. Scott Harrington and Ryan, when they looked at the building, they determined that it does not meet code for public use. So in terms of renovating the house part, we're not able to do that because it would have to be completely taken down and then fixed to make it for use for public space. So we've been focusing on the garage. And so the garage could be refurbished and would be accessible, a facade, so it would no longer look like a garage. It would look like, again, a welcoming building, a cabin-type building that would fit into the character of that historic Boy Scout camp. We would add in a restroom, and then again, this would be our museum, nature center building that would be able to then house exhibits and materials from the Larry Gordon Scouting collection, along with information, again, about the Saratoga Sandplains, the Carnival Butterfly, all of the other things that, that we educate the public about. And so it would be, again, this collaboration between Wilton Wildlife Preserve and Park, the Scouting Group, and the town of Wilton. And so those are the three buildings that we're looking at. I know that in meeting with Scott Harrington, that there are plans for us to move forward, starting this spring, so that we can start with some of the renovations. So we do have money that we've already raised and that we have pledged. And so, again, with the resolution that was passed last month, we are excited about moving forward. So just wanted to really give you guys a nice visual, so when we talk about it, you know what we're talking about, and especially if we are going to be starting with some construction, and if Scott is busy over there, or Roy is busy over there doing some things, so you'll know what it is that we're talking about. So that was the last slide.
Thank you.
So did anyone have any questions?
Yeah.
Or?
I have a question, actually.
Sure.
Larry Gordon was obviously a pioneer in our town. The location that you're currently at is and was the Scout Camp.
Yes.
So the Boy Scouts really brought that camp into our town, gave us a great resource once they turned it over to us. And by Larry Gordon's diligent work and everything, turned it into a park and what we have as far as recreational activities there. I noticed in your proposal that the Larry Gordon aspect part of it, of the honoring of the Scouts and everything, the basic foundation of what you are today is in phase 3. We've been talking for years since Larry's passing to honor him, and it just seems to get pushed off year after year after year. I would like to see phase 3 bumped up to phase 1, because without Larry Gordon and the Boy Scouts, we wouldn't really have that park. And I think we should honor, finally get to it and honor him and get his aspect of the 3 phases you have done first.
So that's a really excellent point.
And that's all dependent on money, and you're saying, well, we didn't get the grants, so this is going to get pushed off probably another year or two.
Well, the materials from the Larry Gordon Camp Saratoga collection are in the museum part itself. Right. But when we first started, I don't know, we were back with the idea of having one new building that we were going to build where the Ranger Cabin was. We were going to demolish the Ranger Cabin and build a new structure which would house all of those pieces. So the information desk, the multi-purpose room, the classroom, the exhibits, all of that would be housed in a new building. But between COVID and other things, we decided to, instead of building a new building, make use of the existing structures. So the welcome cabin is like the front door of what we had originally planned. You know, the IP lodge becomes the multi-purpose room, and the museum becomes the museum where the exhibits are. But we view the whole thing as part of the campus. And to be honest, we had originally called it the Larry Gordon Visitor Interpretive Center. But now that we have 3 separate buildings, the steering committee has not yet settled on whether the whole campus is the Larry Gordon campus, whether the Welcome Center is the Larry Gordon Welcome Center. There's not like, so I guess, I don't know if I'm answering your question right, but we view the whole thing as that project. It's not that the museum has Larry's name on it. The whole thing was conceived of as part of the Larry Gordon Interpretive Center. But now we've broken it into 3 parts. So we're actually supposed to be meeting, I think it's in a week and a half or so, to regroup after not getting the grant to kind of go through it. And one of the things that the committee has to do is, you know, we haven't named anything or sorted that part out, but it's first and foremost, I can assure you, between Trish and Linda Baker and myself, you know, Larry is definitely front and
It
center.
just, I don't
You
know.
know, the purpose of this at the beginning was to honor Larry Gordon. And I know 2 of those big donors were very close friends with Larry, so it was my understanding it'd be Larry's name on that building, and I believe that's how it should be myself.
Is it a meeting in a week and a half? So can you come back in February and hopefully have an option or an idea?
I think it's,
I think the original intent of the Welcome Center was, if I recall correctly, one, Larry Gordon Camp Saratoga Visitor Center, the name of that building, at the paved parking lot at the end. I think we were going to put that name to that building. That was part of it. You know, it has changed over the years. Originally, it was going to be a large building, but that price tag for one large new building was $3 million or so. It's been scaled back, but I agree. Larry, you know, his name has to be, I guess, the first part of it. It'd be nice to see that.
and I know that.
And it's true, COVID has stopped a lot of things. I'm afraid it might get back, so I hope we can get on this.
Yeah, well, that's one of the reasons why, you know, we're meeting and we have this money, like you said, we have donors who have, in good faith, given us money in order to see this vision through, in order to honor Larry, and so we really are, you know, committed to moving ahead this year. And like I said, at the meeting, one of the things is talking about how do you name each of the buildings? Is it the whole campus? Is the Camp Saratoga itself? If this is the Larry Gordon Camp Saratoga Environmental Education Campus, is that the name? You know, and then within the campus is the Welcome Center, the multi-purpose room, the museum. So we can run those ideas by.
Why Camp Saratoga, not Camp Wilton?
It's always been Camp Saratoga.
I know.
I think it's part of, I know, but I think it's part of the Boy Scout heritage thing.
Right.
Yeah.
But no, I really would like to see
Well taken,
the Larry,
Wayne. Well taken.
the Larry Gordon, I think needs to be up and foremost in front of this project.
Coming in there, if it's the Larry Gordon campus, I think that pretty much puts it to all buildings.
Exactly.
That's how I feel.
But I mean, by reading the initial draft on phases of the Larry Gordon part of it wasn't until phase 3 for his Boy Scout museum and stuff like that.
Right. I think that was just probably, an oversight in how we phrased it, in that the scouting collection itself, the actual museum materials, would be housed in the museum. but that if we scrolled back to the Welcome Building, the exhibits on the human history would also be the history of scouting. So if people just go into the Welcome Center, they would also see about Camp Saratoga, the history, the scouting part, the human history, as well as the flora and fauna and recreation parts.
I don't think you're gonna be able to enter any of them buildings and not see Larry.
Is there room anywhere for some Wilton history? There's really no place to go visit any of the Wilton historical stuff. I mean, is there a small area available in the museum or the Welcome Center where some of Wilton history can be seen by visitors?
I think that, we could certainly talk to the Wilton Historical Society and see if they have, I know that Larry's collection was not just limited to scouting itself, but he was such a collector and such an historian and so interested in every aspect of local history that when we get to the point of determining what's going to be in those exhibits, I would think that some of the history of Wilton could certainly be included.
We have to have a spot for our historical.
By the way, Margaret, that was very helpful in visualizing everything.
Oh, good.
I mean, I'm up there a million times, but your explanation of visuals for a lot of clarification. Thank you.
Thanks for the suggestion.
Thank you, Margot.
Thank you.
Thank you, Margot.
Unsafe building at 61 Jones Road. Is Jim here? Can you speak about it, Mark? Mark here?
I've given the board a report on the present condition of the home at 61 Jones Road. What the applicant was asking for was to have the town board reverse the resolution to demo it. I haven't seen any, there's so much damage to this building, I can't see the value in keeping this building or trying to renovate. The floor is rotted and there's mold throughout. It still smells of human waste and biohazard. It's kind of a wreck, and it doesn't meet any of the present codes. They've demoed more than 50. I don't know. There you go.
Would you like to speak?
You said the north and south walls of the foundation were also bowing?
It's actually east and west.
East and west?
The long wall.
Front and back.
Front and back,
The one
maybe
wall,
that's what I should say.
and there's a visual crack that goes from one end to the other where it's bowed in. And the crack is probably an inch and a half to 2 inches wide.
A horizontal
I think
one?
that is horizontally across the foundation. I think that is the cause of the back wall being pulled forward. And you also see that there's another photo in that report that shows separation in the end wall where the roof is tied in. And it's actually, it goes from 2 to 3 inches down to nothing. And that has actually separated the rafters from the ridge.
Would you like to speak, sir?
Yes. Good evening. What we're asking for is for the the board to consider the reversal of the resolution so that we can work with Mark's office to bring this to code, to review that. Because the foundation wall, as it was submitted in the plans to his office and to you folks, shows the plan of how to remove and replace the foundation of the damage. It addresses those issues. Granted, when we did the inspection, there were additional items that we spotted, and they will be addressed with a plan review. But it's my understanding that his office can't do that without the reversal of the resolution. We realize that, of course, there's expense to these things, and there are many areas within that building that were let go by the previous owners. we've come through to clean up that area and to try to make it better. And we know that there's going to be issues, including some of the ones that you pointed out. Well, what we're asking for you folks is that you'll consider reversing the resolution so that we can work with his office, present to him all the corrections, the deficiencies, and bring it to code.
Am I hearing?
What's your feeling, Mark?
As far as,
But you can't do that unless we reverse the resolution?
that's correct, because the town board had asked for the removal of the home by resolution.
And that was quite a while ago, wasn't it?
A year ago.
So it's not, we reverse the resolution, so you guys could kind of have a meeting of the minds or not be a meeting of the minds. It's possible we would draft another resolution. If it turns out that if there's no return on investment or it can't be done safely.
I have a question.
What's your
In
feeling,
February of
Mark?
last year, you came to us and asked us for a 30-day extension on the demolition of that property. That property was condemned because of health and safety reasons. Why are we here a year later? All right, that house was supposed to be raised in 30 days. We're here a year later, and you made no attempt to take this building down. You actually, because I go by that building every day, have started to try to turn it into a project rather than tearing it down like the town requested, and gave you an extension of 30 days. So now you're here a year later asking us to let you rebuild the house that really needed to go to the ground. I was there the night of that incident. The roof foundation is horrific. If you were to put a firefighter on that roof, he's going to fall through and get hurt. Someone took all the signs down condemning the building. When a fire department goes to a condemned building, they look at it in a different aspect as opposed to a consistent structure that we all live in. A condemned building, you don't risk life and safety of the firefighter to go inside and put the fire out. All the condemned building signs are gone. Did you take those down?
No, take it down, we can't go back, I mentioned this. During the process of all the rules, the backdoor level removal and well, any of those signs at that point, they may have fallen, but there was never an intent by any of us to intentionally take them down.
All right, so if you're taking the siding off, you could put the sign back on.
I have one thing to add.
Go ahead.
And when we condemn this, was this the previous owner?
Yes.
So my issue is, we lift this order, how does that make us look to the original owner of that property? He obviously sold it at a loss because it had to be removed and condemned. You bought it at a loss because it had to be condemned. And now we're here saying we're going to reverse that? That doesn't make any sense to me, whether it could be fixed or not. It's unfair to the original owner.
They were living in it right up to the date it was condemned.
Then they came in the next month and said, we're buying the home and relocate it for 30 days.
In filling the rest of the blanking as well, we were unaware of this law situation with the previous owner, is that when we went into this, we were not aware of the resolution to that degree until the very end of the vote. That's a fact.
At closing. You found out at closing or before
Just
closing?
barely before closing, that this resolution, but I had yet to even find out to understand it was an order. What was it? What was the resolution for? Okay? And I didn't get that until November.
I want to interrupt because post the public hearing notice, and I have pictures of that, and they are in that report. We post that public hearing notice, we post the violation, and the condemned sign is on the door. November, and the door is still there, but that condemned sign is on. The tape is still there on it, where the condemned sign was. So somebody removed that. They removed the door. For this owner to say they didn't have knowledge is a home.
Mark, can you hold a minute? Our attorney wants to speak. You're on, Mark.
Hang on, you're on mute still.
Can people hear me?
Yeah, speak loud, but yeah.
Okay. It doesn't have to be right this second, my 2 cents, but I guess I'll preview my 2 cents, which is that I don't think the only choices are, or I don't think our only choice, if we want to allow additional efforts by the property owner, I'm not saying we do, that's up to the town board. But if the town board wants to allow additional efforts by the property owner, I'm not of the opinion that we need to rescind the order from last year. And I would not recommend rescinding the order from last year. That's the only point I wanted to make. We can allow, if you wish to allow the property owner additional opportunity to work on the property, that's up to the town board, but I'm not comfortable recommending rescinding last year's order.
And they can't work on it because of that order through the bill. Yeah, so.
Well, they can. That's why I said if you want to allow additional opportunities to the property owner work, you can do that. You could do that right now by authorizing X amount of time in which to, make progress, bring it up to code, do whatever. We've done that in the past with other properties. I'm not saying to do that. I'm just saying I don't like the notion that the property owner is claiming there's no way to perform additional work unless the prior order is rescinded. That's what I'm disagreeing with.
Would it be an amendment to the resolution?
That's fine. An amendment, a modification, an extension, whatever you want to call it. Any of those are fine. I think town clerk's saying extension, I'm with her.
Mark, what's your feeling? I want to go with you. I want to go with Mark Makins. He's the building inspector. He knows a lot more than the rest of us. What's your feeling?
As far as, I think I've said it a number of times, anything can be fixed or repaired. In this case, I just feel that this building is beyond that point. It's going to take a ton of work and cost to get just this building, and they're adding on to it anyway. They could save the foundation maybe and build off of that.
Is it?
That's correct.
But the length of the walls are going in, why would you even want to save the foundation? Ain't it cinder block, everything's poured now.
Yeah, how long ago did the current owner take possession of the property?
I'm sorry?
How long ago did you take possession of the property?
We closed, I want to say it was February of last year. And it was by about May that we had done through something looking for a walkthrough inspection of the conditions of the next determination.
So if a year has passed since you took possession of the property and those issues have not been resolved, why would we extend another 30 days, let's say, when those things couldn't get done in 365 days?
Well, the things that couldn't get done, I guess that doesn't matter perspective. We had asked for Mark's office to come out back then and look at the conditions that we did get a chance to look at together last month ago. And make a determination together of the existing conditions, or whether or not it was worth it, whatever else you saw. We asked for that back then, and we weren't able to do that until about a month ago. We gave them the report. So had that happened back then, we may not be having
But what, I'm confused. What changed between a year ago and when you talked to Mark?
Exactly.
So were you working on the house that was supposed to be?
Contents inside and out.
So you were working on a house that should have been torn down.
We had asked for an inspection by the town inside to see if it was something that was worth considering tearing down.
They made that determination, though. I'm sorry, they made that determination a year ago. So you came in, you bought it, and decided, okay, well, I'm going to forget about about that. That I'm gonna work on it and then have them come back and look and see what I did. Is it better?
Sure, that's all we're saying. The fact of the matter is that when we purchased it, and then found out about the resolution to the extent that, whatever you need for that, okay, is that we found out the resolution was intended to carry out. We went in with the knowledge that that might be the case. But things change on buildings, and in the 50 years I've been doing this, existing buildings have issues, and they have deficiencies, and you work them out and decide whether or not to process them. And we had asked for that inspection back then for that purpose.
I have
No, if I own that building and it was, I was told by the town that I need to tear it down. And I said, you know what, I'm just selling it. I'm not gonna deal with it, I'm just gonna sell it. And then I found out that the new buyer didn't have to tear it down. I'd be probably contacting an attorney to find out.
We brought in architects and engineers to look at the building in terms of what it needs structurally, medically, code, and do a review.
I'd agree with you 100%. I agree with Mark. Mark said anything can be fixed.
Mark have a copy of that report?
This is also beyond that.
I still have two concerns. Is one in Mark's last inspection report says the house is very damp and full of mold. Mold mitigation alone, without it being airborne, is going to be difficult. All right. The second thing is I walked around there today. A lot of you guys in the audience don't know exactly what transpired in that house, so I can't really say, but it was horrific. I'll put that. And the stench that still comes out of that house is still there. I'm not sure what you did with the contents in that house, because those are biohazardous waste. So I'm not sure what you did with it, but that's your business. Right. And secondly, you have electrical service sitting on the ground in the back in a very damp area where some kid could walk up from the neighborhood. There's kids in the neighborhood. They could walk up and grab that main power feed and play around with and tug on it. I think that's a very dire safety hazard. There's no barrier to prevent anybody from going in there and touching that live feed. It's probably at least 240 coming in from the, and it's on the ground.
Okay, that panel was inspected both by the New York State Inspector and National Grid, and it's underneath the roof.
Which all around is damp leaves and...
I don't know if the panel was inspected. I'm sure that the service meter was inspected, because that's what National Grid asked for, is that the service itself be inspected prior to the meter being placed in that meter.
Just to the meters, National Grid's inspection.
I don't think anybody's ever inspected the temporary panel that's there. At least we have no knowledge or anything in writing that shows.
Mark, is that an outdoor panel that can withstand moisture and everything?
It is not. Does not meet the NFPA.
Right, and it's outside under a leaky roof, because all the leaves around, I walked it today, all the leaves around that electrical panel that's sitting this far off the ground, everything's all wet and around it, and there's water dripping here and here and there. I feel that's a safety hazard, and I feel it should be disconnected tonight if we can do it.
Do you intend to live in the house or just flip it? Somebody else lives in it?
We flip out.
Yeah. Why it becomes somebody else's problem?
I've made my mind up.
I'm ready to make a motion, do something.
I make a motion, we do not rescind that application and find out what it's going to take to get that place removed.
So you're making a motion that we stick to the original?
I want to know why it hasn't been done already.
That was my question.
Got a second?
I'll second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Next month's meeting will be February 1st, because a couple people are going to be gone, so I need a motion to approve that.
Make a motion. I'll second. What's the date?
Favor?
Wednesday 1st.
Favor?
Aye. Aye.
Any opposed? Carried. Solar law, set public hearing for moratorium, February 1st, 2023 at 7 p.m. Anybody want to talk about it?
There probably hasn't been a day in the past couple of weeks that Ryan and I haven't spoken on the phone, or the two of us spoken with folks that are either in the solar industry or in the conservation business. And the construction and placement of solar arrays is a much more complex issue than I would have ever thought. And we're going to get one chance at doing this right, or doing it mostly right. And so I would propose that we have a public hearing to discuss a possible moratorium on solar arrays until we make sure that our code and all the considerations about the clearing of our forest lands and other issues are adequately discussed and decided upon.
Do we have any applications?
Yes.
Yes.
So would we be excluding the applicants?
We have 2 new applicants. They have no approvals at this point.
But they did file the application?
Correct. They're at the pre-application. They came before the planning board as a pre-application status.
I mean, the planning board has to approve it.
No.
If they so choose.
Right. And also, great point, yeah, we're doing a lot of research. And since the town adopted the solar code that we have in place now, there's been many changes through NYSERDA, which is an agency that oversees a lot of the solar arrays that are being promoted throughout the state. And there's a few things I think we need to address with our code as well. For example, solar panel heights.
6 months?
We'll talk about that next.
Talk about that.
When we have the public hearing.
And location. Pretty much everything.
We can't put a moratorium now, right?
No, we have to have a public hearing.
First.
I thought I had to go to the county first.
Mark.
It has to be a local law, which means it's subject to public hearing. If you decide this evening you want to have that public hearing on February 1st, then we can prepare a proposed draft of a local law, which we can have to you next week.
And in our further, Deputy Supervisor McEachern just asked about how long a moratorium, if approved, would last. And that's going to depend on the research that we do in the coming weeks, to decide, what measures we may have to take to make sure we do this right.
With the applications in, I would think 6 months would probably be in order, and then we can always end it sooner. If it takes 3 months, we can just close the moratorium. So.
Right, and exactly so. No matter what the initial term is, and we would always advise an initial term of a reasonable amount, not too long. But the bottom line is, if we don't accomplish our goals of changing the code within the original term of the moratorium, it can be extended. But like Councilman McCaffrey is saying, if we do accomplish those goals prior to the termination of the moratorium, then the moratorium and adopt code amendments, then the moratorium expires.
We need to try to get this right.
I'd like for the record, Ms. Sturm made mention about an op-ed piece that I did about this issue, and I'd just like to read it into the record, and Sue, I'll give you a copy of it. Consensus has emerged that the planet is warming. Increases in carbon dioxide caused by the burning of fossil fuels, combined with the loss of vast tracts of forest, has upset the Earth's natural balance. One response has been an effort to reduce the removal of forest and encourage the planting of trees and other carbon-absorbing plants. At the same time, solar panels have developed as a clean energy source. The efficient production of these panels, plus generous tax and financial incentives, has reduced the cost of creating solar arrays. Solar arrays need space, and sometimes the most cost-effective space is forested land. Clear cutting of forests to erect solar arrays is common. Conservationists remind us, though, that in addition to functioning as carbon-absorbing sponges, forests play a major role in maintaining healthy ecosystems, providing habitat for plants and animals. They filter air and absorb water, protecting against erosion and flooding. Forests also provide our residents and visitors with recreational space for walking, hiking, and biking. Solar arrays are an important source of clean energy. However, the amount of forested land has been shrinking rapidly due to robust development. We should minimize the loss of forests, wild habitat, and wetlands that sequester carbon and provide other functions and values. These lands are an important part of the resilience of people and nature. Every effort should be made to site solar arrays on developed properties, including commercial and industrial sites, parking lots, commercial and industrial rooftops, capped landfills, and developed municipal-owned properties.
Thank you.
Anything more?
If I could add just one more, but it's kind of off the solar array thing. The women who had spoken at the public comment period, more than a decade ago, a plan was put together to try and connect the fairways, the estates of Northern Pines, Lake Elizabeth, that residential corridor we have, to put multi-use paths connecting those neighborhoods and getting to Gavin Park and to Dorothy Nolan School. And at the time, there was not a majority of the board that saw fit to move that forward. But perhaps we can revisit that plan. And
I'm going to bring that up.
none of these town board members were on that board at the time.
We did adopt some, all new developments, any development that comes in.
I got a plan. I got a plan.
Right.
Back to solar arrays, I'll make a motion to set a public hearing for February 1st to discuss a possible moratorium on solar arrays.
7 p.m.
Second?
7 p.m.
Aaron, second. Thank you.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, carried. Opting out exemptions, New York State RPTL. Tina here?
Yes, she is.
You want to speak about this, Tina? We also got to set a public hearing, February 1st, same thing.
So, can we explain the law? All right, New York State has a tax law, 487, and it's on the books, so if any solar farm or energy efficient project comes in and gives me all the documents and applies to my office, as long as everything's in order, I have to grant that exemption. So that way they will be not paying school taxes, New York State mandate taxes, county taxes. They will have to pay special districts. If you opt out of the exemption, then they will be taxed just like anybody else in the town. They'll pay their fair share of the school tax bill and the county bill and New York State mandate. If you don't opt out, then it takes all that value off the roll, and everybody else that is a resident of the town of Wilton will pick up that tax bill. And they're not just
They have to make up the difference.
properties.
They have to make up the difference.
Yeah, they're not $1 or $2 million properties, they're valued much higher than that. For the 5 megawatt.
If one of the solar farm, I shouldn't say solar farm, solar arrays goes on a farm, how does that work?
The class code gets changed. It's no longer a farm use, it'll be commercial. And the land will be probably highly valued as commercial because I know they need a lot of acreage. Another thing about the law too is if they send a letter of intent, which we just got one from Delhead, if they've already got an intercommunication with the utility and put a deposit down, then that is considered the start of construction. So I was talking to Ray about it and Mark.
Which would be exempt from that moratorium.
So I don't know if there's any way around.
They would just be exempt from that moratorium, I would think.
No, we're not talking about the moratorium, we're talking about when they get going and build their panels and stuff on the land.
Mark, you're on mute or something.
So if I can answer that, there is something we can do about the entity that just sent that letter, and that is that we're allowed to send them back notice that we're going to require a pilot agreement, payment in lieu of taxes agreement, and we have 60 days in which to do that. So if you want to, although these two things are somewhat independent of each other, I think what the assessor and I are suggesting is first, set a public hearing for the local law opting out of the state property tax exemption, and also authorize her to send a notice to the property owner that just submitted that information, informing them that the town may require a payment in lieu of taxes agreement with that particular applicant. That doesn't obligate the assessor to do that, but it gives her the authorization from the town board to do that. So from our standpoint, we'd be comfortable recommending both of those steps.
And I know the town doesn't have any town tax, but with the pilot program, you can request other amenities like walking trails, money towards walking trails, and just stuff in the town that may benefit the town with the solar coming in to the town.
That for the county? So we don't have a pilot program in town.
Will it be something separate than the IDA? My understanding, correct, Mark?
Right, we don't have a program, that's correct, Aaron, but we do have the authorization under this section of state real property tax law to notify a solar facility developer that we're going to require a payment in lieu of taxes agreement. And the initial notification is just that we're going to require a payment in lieu of taxes agreement without setting forth the terms that we're going to ask for. It's just a notification that has to be sent within 60 days of receipt of their intent, which is what Tina just reported we've received, telling them that we're going to make that requirement. We don't have to define the requirement yet, but we do have to, in order to preserve our right to make that requirement, we have to notify them within 60 days.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, so even though this Delhead has gotten past that first step, they're considered under construction when they do that intercommunication and deposit. This could be something that would benefit the town when you do a pilot program. Other towns have done it. Even though they do have town tax, they've gotten other amenities from these companies to, like give money towards a trail or a bike path or.
John's got that one figured out.
Oh, okay, you got the plan?
He's got that one figured out.
It's called the land plan.
So, Mark, would it be two motions? One motion to set the public hearing and the second motion after you submit that letter?
Sure, that'd be great.
Thanks for those motions.
Go ahead, Aaron.
Yeah.
I'll second Aaron's motion.
I'll make a motion to set a public hearing for February 1st, 7:01.
For the opting out local law.
To discuss the state property tax exemption, opting out of the state property tax exemption.
701.
701.
Yeah.
And a second motion to
let's do that.
have.
Just do the first
Wait,
one.
one motion at a time.
Yeah, let's do that one.
Okay,
Someone
sorry.
second it?
I'll second that
Ray
motion.
did.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Carried. Aaron?
Thank you. I'll make a second motion that Tina send a letter. I don't know what the company's name was. Galehead. Regarding a pilot agreement with the town.
And any future, right? Any future.
No, on just this application.
Just that
It's just
application.
for
We
this
have what, one or
application,
two
we just got that
applications?
intent letter.
That motion was fine.
Okay.
Thank you.
That's your motion?
All right, so
Yes, sir.
More second?
Second again?
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Carried.
I'll be contacting Mark for the language on that, because he said he
Okay.
does handle all that stuff. I'm pretty sure Dan Vincent don't do that.
Okay.
He does the commercial fighting in the courts.
Go through our town attorney.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Tina will be in touch, Mark.
Yeah, we talked about it already, no problem.
Thank you, Mark. We have some reappointments. Ethics Board, Richard Spackman, Alex Rosati. They're both 1/1/2023 to 12/31/24.
Make a motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Wilton Water Authority, David McDougal, 1/1/2023 to 12/31/2027. I'll make a motion.
I'll make a motion to reappoint Mr. McDougal.
Second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Carried.
Bill Reese are gonna do it again.
Reappointment, Wilton Planning Board, William Rice and David Goodbay. They both done one heck of a job.
Absolutely.
1/1/2023 to 12/31/29. You want to make a motion?
I'll make a motion to reappoint Mr. Rice and Mr. Gabay.
I'll second that.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Carried. Committee reports.
While we're on the topic of, oh, it wasn't here, never mind.
I talked to John and Mark about that, updating that furnace in the Gavin Park small gym. We're looking into that, try to get it to where that other one is. I guess it's
So,
Chili.
I know the day of the event there,
60. I think it's hard to keep it past 60. The furnace keeps cutting out.
Now, is that a commercial furnace in there?
It's, I looked at it, it's so weird. I think the best thing to do is do the same thing we did to that daily gym, get the air conditioning and the heaters and
get it done.
Yep, absolutely.
Get it done, get it safe.
It's like causing us more money trying to get it.
it'll stop
we
on
have a
some
fire.
pictures. I get pictures like every day of thermostat readings.
We need a motion on that?
Maybe you can have it sent to your phone.
I think we can use the funding,
Right.
some of the funding from, I thought,
Well,
or can we not?
I would tend to think that the funding is more intended for programmatic expenses.
I thought from the county, didn't the county?
Yeah, we
do
just
us?
got a big...
Oh, that's different. That's different. That's not ARPA funding. Right.
Okay,
That's
so we
for
can use some of
excess
that.
sales
We got a
tax for county. Yes.
$497,000 check from the county.
Right, and
So-
that's for any purpose that we want,
Right.
yes.
Yeah, so I think
Good for
that
the
if we
people.
use that money to
Yes.
upgrade that, it would be a great help for,
That gym's always used.
Well, it's gonna be good for summer camp to have some air conditioning.
Right. yeah, it's,
Not so.
I looked at the system, I whacked in, everything's buzzing, humming, I'm like, hey, wait, we gotta shut this stuff down. So, yeah,
That's it?
that's it for me.
Right, there's 4 ladies that spoke, I agree with them 100%. I don't mind spending some money, because I might be buying a bicycle, price of gas.
I'll pay to see that.
We'll all chip in.
Chase them.
3 wheels, I hope.
I'll give them my bike.
If I didn't have to go home uphill, I probably would, so,
An e-bike,
yeah.
3 wheels.
I get in trouble with something with a motor.
Yeah, you're right. We'll try to take it off-road.
So, maybe you could set up a committee, maybe you'd sit on it, Ray?
Sure.
I'm a big believer in safety. I was a fireman for many years. I see a lot of people get run over. My son got killed walking in the road, so I've always been nervous about that, but I believe in it. We got 2 other firemen saying the same thing, so maybe you'd sit on that committee, Mr. Murphy being an ex-police officer with traffic. The board would really appreciate it.
Thank you, sir.
Who else wants to volunteer?
I'm in.
Don't all speak at once.
I'm in.
We have Monica Howe.
Okay, good.
That's why you gotta give the fake name when you get up there.
I'm sorry, your name again?
Monica, last name's Howie.
Okay, Monica, okay.
I mean, I think the biggest obstacle, we talked about this at the last zoning board.
It's important to get
review.
the Gavin Park.
The hardest part is getting over Jones Road. And it's gonna require a bridge. It is the only way to cross that safely.
Problem is
Well,
this
if
town,
there's a
so much
roundabout, the
traffic.
roundabout goes in at Car Road, then we have crosswalks.
Yeah, but you gotta get over the north one too.
Oh, you're going the other way. toward
You got, in order
Into
to,
Park.
and
The
it
school
also,
district has to put in the crosswalk, correct, in front of Dorothy Nolan?
and I think the reason it got shot down the last time was we don't own the properties and the right-of-ways on Jones Road. That's what Kurt always said. Now, I don't know how true it is. Mike can probably look into it. Kurt always said, we don't own the road. Right.
I just want to be on record that I am not a big fan of eminent domain and taking people's personal property.
And that's why...
That's why I want to throw it out there early.
That's why we decided, any new development that came in, we always had that interconnection on any new property that comes in.
Right.
The problem is that, and I know what you're trying to get to Gavin Park. That's your goal, and that's the biggest obstacle we've been fighting. And if money buys it, we got no problem spending the money. But it's not
We'll find out.
taking it over eminent domain.
We'll find out.
Going in and saying, I'm taking your property.
You're not either.
Yeah.
I'm sure we can find.
We'll find out. That's why I just set up a committee.
The answer to the question, how other communities doing it, it depends. Some communities have rights of way. The community, the town, city, village owns the property. You don't need to seek anybody's permission to do it. So there's multiple ways of trying to get it done. Like the city of Saratoga Springs along Lake Avenue, what they decided to do is put the bike path in the street. So, we'll look at,
And
Ryan, I don't know.
And our problem with the street comes down to the same thing in like Smith Ridge Road. The owners of the homeowners own the road. Town has
Any
the-
projects that come into town, any new projects,
Right.
we get easements from them.
We've implemented that in the last 8 years. You will be connected in these properties. Even this big one that went in, that's going all the way to Scout Camp.
Right.
As far as, that property was
There's 6
donated to
miles of
take
trail
us.
in
Scout Road.
Scout Road.
Scout
Problem,
Road.
if you're looking to get to Gavin Park from that side of town, that lays, it's,
So you're south on
Come go
Jones
from
Road,
Buller's
you're south
Road
of the railroad overpass. So that's where they want to connect from, is south of the railroad overpass.
Sure.
So currently, there is a design that we've done this year for each end of Carr Road. There's dual roundabout at each end planned there. And there's a multi-use pathway that's planned from the golf course, the bigger golf course, down Carr Road, and to little crosswalks that actually other construction, that's the plan. It does not extend south on Jones Road under the railroad track. The right-of-way, so Carr Road is actually shifted towards the, let's say Carr Road travels north-south mostly. The Carr Road is shifted in the right-of-way to the east side. So there's no land being obtained from those owners along Carr Road. And the pathway will connect, will extend down to just to the entrance to the greens and cross, it'll be on the west side of Carr Road to reach the greens heading towards the River Golf Course. Cross the road onto the green side of the road where there's the apartments, and there's actual easement from the apartments that'll extend over towards the golf course. And I've spoken to the golf course, and they're in agreement with their finding, the roundabout and using their land to the back. So that's in the plan, and that's in the works.
and anything that's coming up in the planning board stage, like on my shop, I gave up my deed of Smith Ridge Road, because I own the other side of Smith Ridge Road, and I gave that up to the town in order to put my project in. So there's a lot of things we're doing to make sure that going forward, this is on all of our minds. We want a safe road. My kid got hit on Smith Ridge Road. This isn't just, it's dear to all of us up here. We want bike trail. We want walking path. I think the first thing we did was took our roads from 11 feet wide to as wide as we could possibly make them to give you that shoulder.
That means your time's up.
You're done.
Northern Pines Road is the county road, so what right to, roundabout, but
Not past.
if people want,
beyond.
anything down on one of the shoulders,
That would be-
Northern Pines would be the county.
Most towns have safe walkways for their kids to be able to walk to school and the parents to walk them to school. Is there anything out there that would allow?
So
That's wwhy I set this committee up, and gonna give you a chance to find out.
And Mabel,
Mike, and I appreciate you starting thinking, because I put you on the committee too. I forgot how smart you were, Ryan, so I put you on it too.
and Maple Avenue does
Thank you
not
girls
allow.
for speaking. Somebody give Sue a contact number so we can get in touch with y'all.
Well, Maple Ave doesn't have traffic light or crossing.
Maple Avenue allows no walkers. You can't walk to
Right,
that.
well, they
school.
won't allow it, but the same side, but the Jody Lane end of Dorothy Nolan,
Right.
that's not the property, there's no access. The school district has never allowed it because it's not their property to have kids walk on to then cross the road. There's the flashing light, but there's no crossing guard or crosswalk either. So I know, as far as the school's concerned, because I grew up in that neighborhood, and it's been an issue for 100 years.
Yeah.
No, I'm sorry, I'm not 100. You know what I mean? I feel like it, but,
You
but I
look
know
good
as
for
far
your
as the
age.
school district goes, that's why that end of Dorothy Nolan has never allowed walking. All right, I love
Jeepers,
my
it's
kids
only-
to walk.
it's only like
We're not
50
there
feet,
anymore,
too.
but
You know,
it's
going
so
back
short,
to
but
that.
it's not
Yeah.
the district or the town's property.
Going back to that committee, why don't you step off and let Dwayne sit on it? Because you're gonna be busy with other projects.
You talking to me?
Okay.
John,
You want Dwayne or Aaron?
I'm not letting you go
Aaron?
nowhere.
You want Dwayne or Aaron?
Well,
Aaron volunteered.
Get the snarl in his lip.
Aaron volunteered.
he's on the safety review committee, so maybe that'd be a good spot for you, Dwayne.
On which committee?
With the young ladies with the...
You all hash it out.
Make
You
up
need
a
some
name.
advice on how to put a bridge in there that costs a couple million
I
bucks.
got drafted just like you did.
All right.
Voluntold.
So everybody know who's on that committee?
Sue does.
Yes.
So
I
that-
know who's not, that's it, that's all that
We have
matters.
Mr.
I got things wrote down
Okay.
for you. You just
So
gotta get
Ray's chairing it.
the ladies' names.
All right.
Ryan Riper, Wilton Water Authority, Wilton Wildlife and Town Trails Coordinator. I'd like to put Ryan, Ray, and pick somebody else in the solar arrays. You can take lead on it. Nancy Riley's Insurance Committee, Personnel and Safety Review Committee. Maria Moran's Personnel Committee. Councilman McCachran, Parks and Rec. Deputy Supervisor. The zoning I asked you to do, we gotta get on it quick. Thank you. Councilman Bogardus, Court, Safety Review, Are You Okay? Americans with Disabilities. How's that Are You Okay? Has that been updated?
No.
Well, we did during COVID. Did it work then? For them?
We just used it during COVID.
I think we had a different form of communication. It wasn't under the Are You Okay? It was a different...
Councilwoman Colligan, Senior Center and Historian. Councilman O'Connor, Highway, Veterans Committee, and Sheriff's Department. Feel like that you and Ray and Anybody else have anything? I lost that sheet. I knew there was something. I went back in my... You want to tell who's on that committee? So I knew there was something.
This video's gonna go through. You talk to it.
Is there anything else anybody wants to volunteer for? Anybody got anything else? Maria, would you do
Category 1 is my 2026 budget transfer from the first three items on the latest change from unspent appropriations to line items that require circulation drive exports for the
Second.
sales tax that we have received already, and we are allocating it to highway program appropriations that are in for estimated invoices that in December.
Your motion? Favor? Aye. Opposed, carried.
Category 3 is our fund balance. We are proposing to increase our assigned categories in the general fund for various functional expenditures based on how we spend our money during the year. This would be our entry that we keep the 2022 beginning fund balance, and then of course the revenue expenditures that happen during 2022 will change those assigned categories based on the activity. So this is just, putting those monies into depository functional categories.
I'm gonna make a motion.
Make a motion to approve those allocations as designed by the control.
Second. In favor? Opposed, carried.
The fourth item is personnel. Unfortunately, we have a resignation. Amy Ward, who is a part-time clerk in the town clerk's office, has submitted her resignation, and the effective date is January 15th, 2023.
Don't accept it? Okay. She is a great loss, and she is one heck of an employee.
She is.
Very cerebral.
With regret, I would make a motion to accept her resignation.
Second.
How long has she been with us?
Almost 5 years.
Second it in.
I'll second.
In favor?
Aye.
Carried.
Thank you. And the last item is informational only, just an update on the ARPA funding. We did get 20 applications. We have dispersed 18 of them for a total of $90,000 for our not-for-profit organizations. We're working with the remaining 2 organizations to, review applications and get the money dispersed. Also, we are working with the Building Saratoga regarding the grant that the town board had approved back in October for the $200,000.
Thank you.
Anything else? Motion to adjourn. Second. Carried. Thank you all for coming. Thank you, Mr. Murphy.
Mike?